Hey, it's coming from there, right? Can you turn that? I just want to make sure. Yeah, turn it a little. You want to make sure. Hey, can someone test? I'll ping you the link. How do you share the link? Share, link share. How do you share the link, man? Dude, where is his Slack? Hello? Can you look at the I don't think it's on. It's not on.
Connected.
It wasn't on. You take it off. No, it's on now. Is it okay? Yeah. It's here. Develop.
Hello, hello, hello. Should I use yours? What? Should I use your Mac or?
Okay. Slides, right? Yeah, but I don't think we'll use yarn.
What's the link for the paper? What's the link for the paper?
Mostly the
Surya. So, shall we get started? So let's get started. First of all, thanks for coming on Saturday. So I'm Surya. Sorry, I've been working for Sharma since last September. I'm mainly focused on NLP. I've been into deep learning for like 2 years, 2.5 years. So we've been applying deep learning techniques to problems in NLP and pharma. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Like I couldn't even keep track of the stuff going on in our own office. So
You should come to office for that. You should come to office for that.
yeah, that's a fair enough. So yeah, doing what I do to keep track of things, what's going on in research. I need to. All of us have to read a bunch of papers, consume a lot of papers. All of us have to consume a lot of papers to make sense of things. As the field is growing faster and faster, more and more new ideas are coming up, which are built on top of older ideas. So it's difficult to jump onto a paper and read it as something standalone. It is built on top of hundreds of data, hundreds of ideas from the year later or older ideas. So how do we keep track of things? So let's look at one of the models. So Sadhana suggested me this paper by Keshav, the 3-pass method for reading a paper. We all have our techniques. We've been doing it for a while. So we must have picked up some tricks to read a paper, how to go about it, how not to waste our time, how to be efficient about it. So this guy, he has put it into a proper system, and the 3-pass method. So yeah, 3 passes. The first pass will that will give you a gist of what's going on. So whether to throw it away, throw the paper away, or to keep reading, and yeah, we'll get a bird's eye view of the paper. What is it? What exactly it's about? And in the second pass, we'll kind of get the ideas, get individual ideas, understand them. And in the final pass, we'll actually put everything together and we'll figure out how the paper comes together. So each pass has a specific role, and it's like hierarchical. You need to go through the first pass, and the second pass builds on top of what you understand from the first pass. Yeah, the first pass. So we quickly scan through the paper. So this will give us a gist of what it is about, and whether to decide if we should keep reading, whether it's interesting or not, or whether it should be discarded. There are so many papers that are kind of baseless and not really relevant to what we want, right? So what we want to accomplish, well, basically we'll have a problem statement. That's what we want to do our research on, focus our research on, and there will be hundreds of papers to go through specific to that, and figuring out what you exactly want and how to separate the garbage. That's really important. Whatever isn't relevant to you is garbage, not necessarily good paper or a bad paper. So this is okay. If you when you see an article like, on Huffington Post or whatever, famous article shared on Facebook that says scientists have figured out something, you can go to the reference and find the paper and go through it, or else it's like you cannot trust an article like shared on Facebook. You go through it and figure out who did the research and where is the paper, and it's not let's say it's in psychology, it's not your area of research, but still you want to get an idea of it, like, from the paper. So for that, pass one is enough. So what do we do in pass one? We read the title. Title should tell us a lot of things like what it's about, abstract, introduction, and conclusion. We read them carefully to figure out what it's about. And then we go through the sections, subsection titles, and if you have time or if you know any math, you go through the equations and you look at the references, like is there any interesting papers in the references. In the first pass, you look at the references and see if you have read anything, if it kind of you'll figure out if it's in your area of research.
Have you seen a research paper? Yes, no. It's not. It's not. Do you want to see the research paper or just a sample?
Yeah, sure.
So they can connect. There will be some. There will be a lot of papers. Just to show what our people do, right? I think that we can connect. That's how it looks. Okay. The reason I'm saying that is that there are sections what he's going through, right? Go through the abstract, go through the title, go through this thing, right? Generally, there's a structure to it. It shouldn't be like prose or whatever. It's written in latex. The font is right there. So,
I should have done this. So yeah, there is a proper structure to paper. Maybe I should have started with that. is an abstract. Abstract is basically a summary of the paper. The abstract is where the author will try to hook you into reading. It's like an advertisement for the paper. The title should also, the title, abstract, the section titles, everything should contain enough information for the the reader to get enough idea about it from the first pass. The paper is structured that way, and we'll have a conclusion, and we'll have a bunch of references. So these are the things that you need to go through and tick off whatever paper that you are familiar with. So this is Archive. If you haven't seen it before, it's a publishing platform where people put up their papers quickly without review. So preprint. So yeah. Yeah. There are like 5 C's for the first pass, 5 objectives. After the first pass, you should kind of know these things about the paper, which category it belongs to, which specific category. Is it in NLP? In NLP, what problem is it solving? And is that problem relevant to you? And context, where does it belong? In which region of research, which area of research belongs to? And that you can figure out from the related papers in the references section. And how correct it is, like the assumptions they have made, is it valid? Does it make sense to you? And what are their actual contributions? What they have? What are the innovations? What are the things that? What are the novel ideas they have come up with? Novel techniques that they have come up with? And finally, whether it's readable, it's clear. If it's like too boring, you don't want to get involved. Second pass. So, second pass, we actually start caring about the paper. We read it with more focus.
So you pretty much filter out a lot of papers in the first pass, right?
First pass will that should be the baseline test. That should remove most of the junk. The only papers that are actually relevant, that will be anyway closer to interesting or useful to you, that will go through the first pass, and you go to the second pass. So the first pass, it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes to filter out the paper. Second pass, we an experienced reader. So let's say I've been working in deep learning for a while, so I'd like to call myself an experienced reader. So it takes about an hour to do the second pass. This is enough for papers that are actually in your in your kind of broad area of research. Like let's say a paper in deep learning or in computer vision, but computer vision is not my specialty. So pass 2 is enough for me. Like I can look into computer vision paper and look at the techniques in there. What are new techniques that they have come up with? So I can stop there. I don't have to go into detail like what is the performance of the model, stuff like that. So at the end of pass 2, you should be able to summarize the paper to someone else, like what the paper is about, and what is the is there enough evidence to support it? Like if the person who you are explaining it to, he asks some questions, you should be able to back it up with evidence. Yeah. So what do? We highlight the key points. Yeah. So you either you read it as a PDF, so you probably have a highlighting tool. You highlight the important points, and you can keep track of key points by making comments, taking notes. I take a bunch of notes. I have my own technique for taking notes. Even this paper and the other paper that I do. I note down important points and also note down terms that I don't understand. Maybe use different colors for highlighting the terms that you don't understand, so you can go back to it. And while you're reading, what would you like to ask the author? Like, Maybe this section could be written better. Maybe it could have more visuals, or maybe something isn't clear enough. So these questions you can note it down as comments, and maybe you can use this, make a bunch of comments and turn them into a review of the paper itself. You can put it up online or share it with people, but keep it for yourself. Yeah, go through the figures, graphs, everything. The architecture diagram. In deep learning, we have this architecture diagram that will basically show us the model. That's like most of the cases. That's enough, I guess. The algorithm part, the learning part, everything else. The innovations in there are slow. Like only few papers come up with these interesting ideas in the algorithm learning method and stuff. So most of the things happen in the architecture itself. So the new innovations happen in the architecture. By looking at the architecture diagram, you should be able to figure out what's new. So I usually jump to the architecture diagram, even in the first pass. If the abstract is kind of interesting enough, I will jump to the architecture diagram and see what's interesting about it. And yeah, you note down the references that will help you later, like the references that are actually relevant to you. Right. So yeah, we are going through a paper. After the first pass, you probably don't understand most papers. Like when you are getting started, you don't get it. So what? So you don't get it because it's not your subject yet. Like it takes time to learn the ideas, that the foundations. It takes time. What do? We okay. The terminology and acronyms could be unfamiliar to you, and the techniques they have used could be unfamiliar to you. For example, I came across this paper yesterday. Archana shared me a paper on neural architecture. It uses evolution, genetic algorithms. Those techniques are unfamiliar. I know SGD and likelihood maximization. That's the norm in deep learning. So when I look at a paper on evolution, I don't get it. It could be badly written. That's possible. I have seen papers like that, and maybe you're just tired. So what do? Okay, that's not optimistic. Let's we'll get some background, like read some books.
And Surya curses and likes thing.
Oh, I don't normally curse. We read the background. We read the fundamentals, the foundation. I could suggest you go read a book, but nobody does that anymore. We read blogs and stuff. We know what's going on, like what are the terms that you are unfamiliar with, terms that look weird, new to you. So Google them, find blogs on them, and there are good people who contribute to the community by writing blogs. Even I do that. I used to do that. So you can get a background idea of what's going on. So that will build your foundation and go back to it. Or you could power through pass 3, or do both. Okay. So pass 3, it depends. If you are really experienced and you have done a lot of work, if you have written a paper on a particular area, then you are you have experience. So it takes you like 2 hours to complete a paper. Like go through the third pass, like get a detailed understanding of it. So what do you do in third pass? We focus on every single detail. We challenge every assumption. And how would you, like you are experienced, right? So you would look at how the author has presented some idea and visualize how you would present it. So that's one thing you could note it down. Like that could be part of your future, or it could you have a toolbox of skills, right? So on how to write a paper, you can note it down, add it to that. So what do we do in third pass? We try to recreate the paper from scratch. Like as you read the paper, the author, in the intro section, the author would have mentioned what the problem is, problem statement, and what are the assumptions. We have assumed these things. These are our bounds, and we start from here. We make the same assumptions, we try to solve the same problem as the author did, and we try to virtually recreate his work, right? So, and then when you are done, we compare. Like you can do it. You don't have to experimentally recreate everything. Again, it depends on the field. In deep learning, maybe we could write it in PyTorch and recreate the work in half a day. So compare it with the actual paper, whether the results that they have come up with matches with your work, right? And what we identify these three things. What are they actually contributing, and what's novel, and what could break the model, right? And what are their assumptions? Are their assumptions valid, or are they, exploiting it too much? Okay, so at the end of pass 3, you should, I mean, if you are going to pass 3, the paper really matters to you, you care about the paper. So you try to, almost memorize the ideas in it. So you should
change the background of your you see the black of it. You not able to see actually, like see exactly. Just look at the paper.
I don't see anything there. Like, not even on the screen.
Yeah, on the screen, what of that's on the screen is very hard to see. Can you see?
No.
It is there like that.
It's not editable.
Or maybe switch off the lights. So switch off the lights and Surya won't be yeah. Yeah. I even know it's not.
Wait, wait.
No, wait.
It takes a minute or.
Switching off. Surya is not visible. Very dark. There are some extensions. Yeah, dark reader or something. Dark reader. Actually, text. See, like you change it. Different choice. Yeah.
So what are we doing? We are at the end of class time. So the idea is to remember everything in there, like things that actually matter. I mean, it's your area of research, it's your specialty, so you should memorize some of the ideas. So you should be able to recreate the paper from scratch, from the same assumptions. So you identify what the weak points and strong points. So I was reading that paper, how to read a paper by Yeshel. He has presented this idea of how to do a proper literature study. I mean, it's pretty much the method is basically what we do. Let's just review it. Okay. We what selection is you use Google Scholar? How do you find papers? How do you find papers? Huh?
How do you find papers that you have to read?
Like, do you just use Google Scholar?
So for me personally, when I want to read a paper, most recent papers, it bubbles up through Facebook or Twitter. That's what I rely on. Twitter is what I rely on, at least actually for reading paper. If I have to search for a paper, right, and look at what I have to read, I use Archive Sanity. That's another and I use.
Archive Sanity is that's the one that renders it as
no, it's based on TF IDF, so it actually takes into consideration whatever I use for recommending all this.
There is this platform that takes the content from PDF and puts it as a web page.
No, not really, not that. Archive Sanity is anti-corruption.
Just gives the results.
Huh?
Just gives the results for search.
Yeah, it just gives the results for search. That's one. Obviously, yeah, I think Google Scholar.
I use Google Scholar.
Go to archive category wise.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, but the problem with the archive is you don't know the citations, right? I mean, like, you wouldn't know like how many.
If you want to see what is the best, what is the latest thing that is happening?
The latest is archive.
I mean, nowadays archive have mobile apps where you can actually go have your search and have your saved papers. Most of them use.
I completely stopped going to Arcade directly.
Overwhelming.
Huh?
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. It's almost impossible to keep track of things. Right?
Every day 30 to 50 papers.
Huh?
Every day 30 to 50 papers. That's one thing.
So yeah, the Madhu mentioned it's really a good idea to follow these people. At least in deep learning, it has a lot of social media.
Correct. Twitter is one of the main.
Twitter, and there is the subreddit r/machine learning.
Yeah, that's actually good.
It's amazing. It has this. They have this weekly thread. What you are
reading, where.
Yeah. Where. So they have done it for 52 weeks or something. So every week they ask people, what are you reading, what's interesting, and it has that bunch of stuff. So most researchers are in there, in that subreddit. When you comment on a paper or something, the original author replies to it. So yeah, that's Reddit, Twitter, and what else? If it's like the paper is really groundbreaking or something, you can find it on Facebook.
So what other place where I go to is like any major conference that happens, ICML, ICLR, all those things, right? Whenever whatever papers that got selected for it gets listed, I generally tend to read that paper to get an idea. Right? Generally, the comments for that is available in the search. That's another source which I generally look at. I go there, look at it and see, and it's actually funny sometimes, some of the fights. So last year there was a fight between for the lip syncing. There was this paper that was published from out the lip syncing. He's a very famous author too.
I remember the paper, but I don't remember.
Yeah, there was like nasty fight in the research game over there. Finding what the person says by like video analytics on a list. It was very controversial, at least on the research game. So sometimes we don't have anything to do, like look at the comments in the research game.
We can just start from Google Scholar. There are two ways to approach things. Like either you are like really crazy person, really into deep learning. Maybe you got started and you are really into it, or you have to be into it. You have to keep track of it. So in that case, you can follow these people and look at the papers as they come up. Or you could be a researcher focused on something very specific. In that case, you can start with search engines. So choose start with a bunch of keywords that are really well chosen, and Google, and find some 3 to 5 highly cited papers. Start there, and we go through each paper. Go through the first pass of each paper, and what we do is this is something that I have observed a lot. Finding shared citations. When you are solving a very specific problem, and there are a bunch of recent work that have attempted to solve it. What we observe is there are like at least 5 to 10 papers that are sharely cited by these papers. So you know that it's really important to go through them because it's shared by almost all the papers. So figure out repeated author names. There will always be one guy who will be in every paper published on a particular problem. He will keep updating it over and over again. He will come up with new ideas to solve the problem, get better performance. There will be one guy. Find that guy. Not one guy, a bunch of guys. So you can find those people. And through those people, you can find the key papers. Download them. Keep that. And it's important to look at these key researchers. For example, what comes to mind? Goodfellow. He's the guy who came to the idea of GAN, right? So start from Goodfellow and you'll figure out, or you can start with the GAN paper and you can figure out every variant of GAN and the application-oriented papers of GAN. Remember the key researchers. Goodfellow, when you think about GAN, you directly go to Goodfellow. So like that, what else? We observe this pattern everywhere, right?
Kristen Collison gets cited every AGAP.
Which name?
Kristen Collison.
Thorensen, right? Switzerland, right?
Iceland.
Iceland, right. Thorensen, I have read a bunch of his papers. AGA research. Thorensen was. So when you look at what else? Reading comprehension, question analysis, these problems. You look at what's his name, the Salesforce people, right? Richard Sorsha. He's the go-to guy for that. Yeah, identify the key researchers. Stop them.
Smelity is also another one, right? Smelity.
Merity. Go to their websites and figure out the conferences where they are publishing. Because if that guy is publishing somewhere, it's like a top conference. So he will.
So actually, they use Twitter effectively for this. Right? You follow one Twitter recommendation engine is actually gonna tell you who to follow next, right? At least in the same user profile. That's what I did. Like when I started reading this paper, that's what I did for me to get an understanding of it. I went to Twitter, I started following few, then I started getting the recommendation of two others that I should follow. That actually will get you into this. Or right, I don't follow a lot of people on Twitter. Go through my list, get that links. And that should also help.
A lot of people have made that list for us.
Was it?
A lot of people who have made that list.
Yes.
AI people, there are a lot of.
Yeah, lot of.
Yeah, that sounds good, but the Twitter recommendations are like amazing. I get the latest update and latest papers like every morning.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
This morning I was reading my paper published in every paper. Use some algorithms.
They don't follow the paper now, right? After Surya, I don't feel on the paper.
Yeah, he's good at it.
I is good at it.
Thorensen from Reykjavik, right? Yeah, when you're doing literature survey, if you come across a survey paper, that's great, you're done. Go through the survey paper, you have everything in there. Or, like I mentioned, find the top conferences, get the recent proceedings and get the papers from there. Key papers from key researchers and those shared citations. Combine them together and this becomes your first version of the survey. Put them all together in a folder and then organize them, read them, refine them to get the PIDs. Okay.
So is that clear how we go about finding the papers and reading? And the reason why I'm asking is like if the shift from a programmer or like now a hacker to a researcher actually happens by that process. So you can be a hacker, get things to work, but you want to take it to the next level, right? That's why hacking even get certain things to work, like vanilla. Okay? But if you want to improve on that, let's say like a jump by 5% or 10% improvement in accuracy, you need to do research paper reading, and stuff like that. So any 1% improvement in accuracy needs a lot of work. So reading actually helps. And maybe another context, not all research papers are good either. Okay? So take that with a grain of salt. That's why like when you read or whenever you see a news article or something like which gains such a big thing, then take a hard look at it, see what kind of data that they use, what is that it's being claimed and all those things. Trust the researchers more from the researchers, even though they have constructive criticism and arguments. Still, like at the end of the day, they come together. They say like paper is good. They say the paper is good. I mean, like Yam LeCun, for example, calls GAN as like the next best thing since the sliced bread. Okay, so there are things that comes out of stuff. So reading the paper actually helps you to get into that next level of thinking. We do a lot of paper reading, at least like 3 or 4 papers, at least 1 person per week to come share. So that one, see, that's another interesting thing, right? You don't need to read every paper. Okay, I don't know, like I went to UV probably graduated from better colleges. I went to University of Madras, University. I didn't need to read the same. So they group reading at the end of the day before the exams. Right? I'm really following the same principle of paper reading. I didn't need to read every paper. I could read a few papers, others can read other papers, we can just share. Right? A paper reading group generally tends to work a little better. And trying to have open paper reading group here. This is one of those sessions. And next time, he's not the only one who's doing person. Probably expect you guys to come up with a paper. Right? We can share. Right? Like design on paper, this is summary paper. You can sit down.
One question. Like generally when you search, where do you stop your search?
Smart person.
I don't think you do. That's the point of research, right?
No, so not in terms of finding something new, but say you want to develop a product and you want to make a certain component influence. Let's say you want to put something for studio vision. You go back searching a lot of papers, opening into that. Where do you stop it?
I think you stop and you find a solution that you think will work, and then you go try it out if it works, and then you stop and you go back and do the same thing. It's not that stage. What happens is better to glance through all papers.
That is what. So when you open all these
All of
papers,
these
right?
papers,
Yeah, then you have a kind of thought that okay, there might be a better one.
So in that case, it's very good to read the paper. Like even glance through, you know what all is this. Even if you have 10 papers open on your tab, you can just glance through what all is this. This is the media of overall view for your product. So that will be a better way. Than to just sit down and read like 5 pages. Yeah, that's how
No, that's- It is.
a
It's
bit of a
okay.
capacity. Once you reach that sort of threshold, you can't read anymore for the people. Stop.
I think it comes down to how strong your problem statement. How is like when you start your search, you don't know exactly what you want. So as you keep reading these papers, glancing through papers, more and more papers, you come up with a more concrete idea of what you want. The problem statement becomes formal and concrete. And at some point, these are the papers I want. These are the people who have actually done the work, solved the problem that I want. So that's what is changing as you keep reading. Like, you know exactly what you want. At that point, you know exactly which papers to read. And there are like 4 or 5 people, they are the only ones who try to solve that problem. So you can stop with those people.
So yeah, at least like my perspective, way I go about it, right? It's actually like never ending to find the right paper for you to solve. It's actually like never ending to find the right paper for you to solve. What I do is like I go through a couple of papers, right? I look for again it's all about developing an intuition. For me, more and more papers that I read, I get an intuition of how to solve it. Right? Intuition is a hard thing to get, and that's what I look for in a paper. Sometimes the entire approach what they follow may not work exactly for me, but I can come with a new approach to solve it. All I'm looking for is ideas on how to solve that particular thing. The more better things, the other stuff that is happening with the deep learning community, at least most of the papers are coming with a code now, right? So people are taking that as a trend to actually solve it. That's a good thing, right? So when it comes to the code, like you don't need to technically, you can actually try it and see whether it works or not, and then go doing something, right? But again, trying also is a little tricky. Some of the people that come from DeepMind and others usually it's trained on, I don't know, man, like got for 1,200 GPUs or 2,000 GPUs or whatever, right? So those kind of papers are also there, but it is fairly interesting on how there's no set way on how to stop where you stop. It depends on the individual, right? You go through a couple of papers, you see like whether you can develop an intuition on how to solve it. You start getting an idea, then that's the right point to stop.
I think research in deep learning is getting more and more structured, especially evaluation. Like they are building a framework for evaluation in each subdomain. For example, who started it? OpenAI started it with Jim, evaluating reinforcement learning. That they are just doing simulation environments, but it's it's a framework for evaluating a lot of new algorithms. It's really powerful. And what's the other thing? Stanford question answering data. Squad. how to properly evaluate it, and they have come up with a leaderboard that they keep updating it. So when okay, what did I start with? So other example, I wanted to talk about the NLP progress.
Sebastian Rudel.
You may be familiar with Sebastian Rudel. If you are doing NLP, you will be familiar with Sebastian Rudel. This paper is written by Sebastian Rudel and Jeremy Howard. Jeremy Howard is from FastAid. Yeah. So he started this repository, NLP Progress. So it keeps track of, they has like 20 NLP tasks. Pretty much that covers everything in NLP. And what are the state-of-the-art papers, state-of-the-art research in it. And it gets updated. So what I'm saying is research is getting more and more structured in deep learning. Deep learning is new compared to pretty much the other. It is getting more structured. But I don't remember why I started this way.
No, it's when to stop. Right, when to stop.
Okay.
So for the again, like those kind of papers, like NLP progress, those kind of sites actually give you a really good idea what papers to read. What is the state of the art? But state of the art does not mean always that's a good thing, right? I mean, not even work for your problem. So you have to again like look for even sometimes, right? I would never put a segment introduction, but I would actually happily put a ENET introduction. ENET is like it's been trained specifically for mobile devices. So things that actually are more practical, you could actually find it more and more when you read. So yeah.
Okay. So let's read this paper. It's like really interesting paper. This will make waves in NLP. It's expected to make waves in NLP. We all know what triggers the advances in computers. It's basically transfer learning that they have come up with the ImageNet, and ImageNet is basically a huge CNN-based architecture. It's quite big, and it's trained on millions of images of. It has a classification objective. It tries to classify images, from a large data set. And what happens there is it, as it tries to classify images, as it tries to, extract features from the images, it learns a lot of filters. Right? It learns to extract generic features from all the images. So it contains that kind of knowledge. So we transfer that knowledge to our specific task. But if you just want to use it for our own particular application in a small domain, very special classifier, very specific classifier for a very specific type of images. So what we do is we don't train it from scratch. We use ImageNet and then we retrain it, like fine tune it. The term fine tuning comes in. We take a classifier that's been already trained to identify general images. We fine tune it on our to solve our specific problem. So that is the advanced. That's the breakthrough in computer vision. But we didn't have that for NLP until this one. Like we had transfer learning class, but transfer learning models and stuff. But never on this level. They have come up with a proper structured approach, to do transfer learning.
It was there in embeddings, right?
Word embeddings are there. I mean, even most of us, we don't start training our language model from scratch, from our data. We use existing word embeddings. We have this Word2Vec cloud. They provide pre-trained embeddings. We initialize our own embeddings with those pre-trained embeddings. We either freeze it there or we fine tune it, right? So that was that, but not on this level. Like nobody. There were no. They stopped at the embedding. There were no, classification.
It's more like embedding gives you a little bit of context, right? Literally, where a word is in vector space. That's pretty much it is, right? Again, that could be given as an input, and the prior knowledge can be imparted using that. But that prior knowledge at the early level does not take you all the way when you have like multiple layers of stack. It does not take it all the way down, right? The more specific the task is, it usually happens at the bottom layer. That's the way, at least neural net learns. So when you stop at the top layer, you're just stopping at the context, right? Then you are trying to do a heavy training on this thing, which means it poses another thing. You need more data for training. You can't exactly transfer that over to, like, let's say, a smaller data set. If you have only like 100 samples or 150 samples per class that you're trying to do for classification, you can't really transfer it over. That is a bigger issue.
So, yeah, so we'll start with the name of the paper, like follow that approach. I mean, I won't exactly follow that approach with 3+ method, but we'll start with the name, Universal Language Model, fine-tuning for text classification. So, the collection of tasks that they want to focus on is just text classification, and the fine-tuning part implies there is some transfer learning. And language model. There are these keywords that will give you information. Fine-tuning implies transfer learning, text classification will give you some other tag, and language modeling. Okay, so the title is basically condensed into the abstract has been condensed into the title. So we have got all the information from that. So we have a language modeling thing and fine-tuning. And, they are applying it on 6 classification tasks, and they are having a huge boost in performance. So, and this point, like just with the 100 labeled example for your specific task, you could use the pre-trained model and apply it, fine-tune it, and use it for your task. Just with 100 labeled examples, which is huge for NL.
Not only that, right? The other question is, how do I start to read a paper? Whenever I see a claim like the 18 to 24% and measure, I want to read the paper. Right? That says, like, you know what, like, this is a huge shift. 1 or 2% people publish a paper. When you claim like you have 18 to 24% difference, you better read the paper. You want to actually at least know what they've tried. That's one way for looking at one paper. So pass 1, right? This is what I look for. Ideally, I do a 3-pass reading too. Surya goes at 1 pass, right? Mine is a 3-pass reading. So I have to consume a lot more papers than Surya is specific. For me, I have a lot more people reporting under me, so I have to consume a lot more papers. So a lot of my thing stops at pass 1, right? Whenever I get something like this, I go to pass 1, pass 2. So
I have the luxury of being surrounded by people who do the first pass, and then they tell me read this paper and give me this. So I can read it line by line. After reading, I'll show the paper.
Other way around.
Okay. Okay. So we have our intro section that will probably start with CV and what happens in CV and why NP is struggling. So from just the intro section, we can.
How many of you actually have work on it? You do. Yeah. The reason why I asked is like this thing is very important, at least from an NLP perspective. The approach, what they're trying to say or what they're trying to do, goes to the detail. But it is like the transfer learning that's response for image, right? Computer vision. It's literally on the same thing. Exactly, right? That's what they're trying, and a good property this one would work.
They call it the ImageNet for NLP. So as you go through the intro section, you'll figure out these ideas. Like, first one is inductive and transductive thing, dichotomy of transfer. So inductive is, transfective is basically you know what task you want to solve and you train it on that. Inductive transfer is basically you want to learn, you don't know the actual task. You want to learn general features so that you can apply it to the task itself. Right, what else? So language modeling is the ideal source task. So these are the ideas that you need to pick up when you look at the, you will pick up as you look at the introduction, as you skim through the introduction, even during the first class. As you read it carefully, you can pick up these ideas and note them down maybe. So that's what I did. So this is one of the ideas. Language modeling is ideal source task. So we have a lot of tasks in NLP. It can be categorized, subcategorized into smaller problems, but the most common task that is necessary for every other task is language modeling. Understanding the grammar, the structure of language, structure and semantics. So this, based on this task, it will become imagine it for another. So, like I mentioned, it learns common linguistic features that will be useful for any task in NLP, right? Learning long-term dependencies, hierarchical relationships, and sentiment of each sentence.
So it works like a language model.
Yeah.
But it's shallow though, right?
It's word level language, right?
Okay.
It has word level features, but it's
Probably might be the preliminary stage of language modeling.
yeah. Thing is, they have attempted to do that's basically language model. What to make they have achieved is language model. But what they have done in this paper is come up with techniques where they can actually apply it to a task, task with small number of labeled samples. How to do that properly? That's the innovation in it. So when you look at the sections in the paper, these are the important sections. And the other thing from the 3-pass method is figure out what their actual contribution is. These three are not exactly, the 2 and 3 are the most important contributions, what they have done that is novel, right? So you figure that out, and this is the important part of the paper actually. You can skip everything else, just read these 3 sections in the paper. Good thing is they have a contribution section. They have put it down there. Most papers won't, at least not as a separate section. It will be part of the introduction or something.
That happens only when you make a normal contribution. Okay. Another good way to actually find out why you have to read a paper, right? What is their contribution towards? I don't know whether you guys work on systems, learned index. There's a paper that came from Jeffrey. That's actually a really, really good paper. Okay. If you haven't read that, read it. It's a big paper. Application is very simple on that, straightforward. But the systems implication was huge, right? So when you look at the paper of that kind, even there's a contribution section. It says exactly what is their contribution in this particular paper. Why they publish.
So deep learning papers, everything is data driven, right? So you need to know which data set they are making use of. So they have tried on Wikitext 103. And look at the architecture diagram. Yeah, one thing we can identify is they have separated into layers, so we can know that they are doing some kind of manipulation on layer level, layer-wise manipulation. And you can see there is eta in there, which is learning rate. So they are manipulating learning rate on a layer-wise fashion. And they are doing something weird on the final layer. This is one of the key ideas in the discriminative fine-tuning. The idea is that different layers capture different types of information. That's obvious. And so the fine-tuning should be done at a different rate for a different layer. So based on that, we manipulate the normal SGD, so stochastic gradient descent. And they have come up with a variant of stochastic gradient descent. Discriminative fine-tuning. Yeah, eta L. So we have different learning rates for different layers. We are doing that kind of manipulation. They have come up with a variant, slanted triangular learning rate. So this is it's a variant of triangular learning rate. So this is one of the cases where you need to find the paper that they have cited. Triangular learning rates. Someone else has come up with the idea of triangular learning rate. So you jump to that paper and figure out, get an idea of, first maybe, you get an idea of what triangular learning rate is. And you come back to this paper and figure that. Or if it's not that important, you can put it on your to-do list and move on. Right? I have a vague idea of what this is, but I don't have a kind of intuition why it works. Or I haven't read the triangular LR paper. So the objective is to make the convergence quicker. Right? The first part is common. The pre-training part, the language modeling part, that's pretty simple. You do it on general unstructured, unlabeled data. You train your model on that, and the next part is actually language model fine-tuning. Right, we have three things, right? Yeah, general domain language model pre-training, and target task language model fine-tuning. The next thing is classifier fine-tuning. Fine-tune the language model based on your data, right? For your program. And then you use the labeled samples to fine-tune the classifier, right? We are in the second step. Okay, so the second step, they make use of STLR and they apply layer-wise, learning rate manipulations. And it's good to get an idea of what the situation is. They have, in this paper, they have explained it really well. Like every term, what it means. So you could go through the paper and figure it out. The last one, we are going to fine-tune the classifier. One of the problems in fine-tuning is it leads to catastrophic forgetting. Whatever we learned, the general features we learned, it will be completely erased. It's like it goes back to scratch. It goes back to random initialization, and then it learns on the new task. So how do we overcome this? This is one of the things I picked up. They use a variant of chain thaw method. That's from another paper. This is something you want to jump into that paper, figure out what that is, and come back. I haven't done that, but I'm preaching. So what do we do with this insight? How do we avoid catastrophic forgetting? What we do is we freeze the model and start to fine-tune it in iterations, like step by step. Start with the final layer, and the final layer contains the least amount of general knowledge. When you go into computer vision or CNN models, as you start from the first layer, it learns really general features like its detection, and then larger shapes. It tries to detect larger shapes and stuff, and it gets more and more specific. Start from generic and becomes more and more specific. So the general knowledge kind of is low on the final layer. So what we do is we start with the last layer and fine-tune for one repo. By freezing, I mean we just keep the parameters as such. We don't train on it. We freeze it. Only the parameters of the final layer will be trained, fine-tuned, right? And then we unfreeze the next layer. We fine-tune it for one epoch, and then we unfreeze the previous layer. It goes on. So this is gradual unfreezing. This is one of the major contributions that they have. And finally, they have added like 2 linear layers at the end. This is for the specific tasks that what the classifier does. These are the only parameters. The final 2 layers we have this, I guess, fully connected layer. I guess these are the parameters that will be learned from scratch. Everything else have been pre-trained on something generic, right? So they use batch normalization, dropout, ReLU activation. If you have no idea what batch normalization, you jump to that paper. Read a blog on it because it's like a really famous idea. You don't want to go to the paper, right? So what's dropout, why it works, ReLU activation, and we have a softmax at and come up with the probability distribution across all the targets.
There are some YouTube videos also on a lot of these concepts. By the way, I learn a lot from YouTube, like not much in the papers, YouTube talks, good source talk, but in fact, it's changed the things that being done. So YouTube has a lot of good videos on when things work, batch normalization, dropout. But sometimes when you understand the context and how they came up with this, right, the idea or the intuition behind it is like it's beautiful to look at. Dropout actually is a very famous story. Read about the acquaintance dropout story, you know, came from a bank teller. So,
What's the story?
so the dropout, right? What happened is dropout is something like you don't want your neural network or deep learning model to memorize the data, right? When you have little data, what happens is the models should learn the pattern, but takes a shortcut, right? It's like preparing for exam, right? If you have a very small book, you memorize the entire thing. But if you have a bigger book, what happens? You try to learn the pattern so that you can apply it better. Okay. So what Jeffrey did, apparently the story is he went to he used to go to a bank regularly at the same time every week, but he never used to see the same teller at the same counter. Okay. So he asked like, what is really going on? Why is that not the same teller at the same counter? They said, what if the tellers are the same at the same time, right? There's the more probability of them committing a fraud or something of that nature. They keep changing it or making that change so that there's no set pattern around it that they could actually do that, right? So we adopted that for dropout. Dropout either initially 0 or randomly drops that particular connection. It's fairly interesting where some of the ideas come from very not so common places, right? So that's one of those. So whenever some certain things, right? Whenever you read these things, tell the story. Sometimes for me, rather than reading the paper, that gives me a better perspective on how I could solve a problem. Intuition. So, like it's not the usual mathematical research. We have a mathematician here. I know she will kill me for saying that, but I look for intuition when I'm solving the problem.
So yeah, the method itself is really simple, but how they came up with this really interesting. And the analysis that have been done on it, they have done a Bayesian analysis on it. They have Bayesian explanations on it. Whatever happens, they always try to connect it to the baseline. That's where everything. So we have a concat pooling thing. So basically, how we take the information from the hidden layers. That's the thing. So we do max pool and min pool and concat with the final hidden state. And yeah, that will be our final representation. The results, they perform really well on a bunch of tasks: question classification, topic classification, and sentiment analysis, sentiment classification. Yeah, that's about it.
So yeah, have you read the Elmo paper?
No.
Came from Alan. I'd like to know more about the max previous time. So what is that like?
We have a bunch of hidden state, right? We have forward and backward LSTM there. And as it processes a sequence, we will get multiple hidden states. And the final hidden state will be kind of a summary of everything, but we would like the information from everything. So if you take a max pool of it, like max pool pool in the sense it's pretty much what happens in CV. Right? You take the max of every unit across.
So you brightest, right? I mean, when you do max pool with CV, what you're looking for is the brightest color in it counts as a value, right? I mean, that's what ideally you're doing. You're going to do a 2x2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Similar approach here. They're doing like a max and then go.
So you need cooling on the intermediate stage,
The end state, pretty much, right before that particular thing. Concat cooling. Where does a concat cooling come in?
This is the intermediate states of the LSTM.
Before linear, before you feed it to linear,
Mm-hmm.
right before you put it to full connector, right? I mean, that's what you do, right? I mean, even CV, you flatten it out and then you actually fully connect, right? Literally the same thing. Just before it gets went into linear, this happens.
So you
Bowling across time steps.
is it also pulling across the units LSTM unit state?
It's like consider the first unit at each hidden state, right? And we take the max of all the first units, and that will become our this thing max pull of h of 0. And yeah, that's the take it across that.
Sounds good.
It's actually very interesting. There's another thing.
I didn't add it here. PPC.
Back propagation for text classification. Back propagation for text classification. It's the last step. And I get this from first class. Okay. I do really like he does. I also get very so I asked.
This has been done before, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's their contribution.
No, it's not their contribution. The idea, at least, right? Like for me, at least, I have seen this first. The problem when you're dealing with, okay, most of these language models, when you look at it, when you have one sentence, that is not really well. Okay. But when you are looking at like a huge document, right, it does not work that well. It does not scale that well. We have seen it a lot of times. So BB363, what it does is, they are actually splitting it based on batches. Batches, the batch is nothing but like, split that particular document. Okay. And let's say like I'm splitting the document to 10, right? I'll probably have 10 batch for it to run. And so I ran the first iteration, right? And the second batch that I'm running, right? The hidden state that I'm going to initialize, right? The first hidden state. But in this case, I'm going to initialize the hidden state with the previous last one's hidden state. So it's a transfer of knowledge from one to another. At the same time, the network is small enough for it to handle. Right? Longer, huge networks, or the longer networks, they do not handle it well. They don't store the states. So that's an issue. So we try to limit that. That's one thing.
The steps through which gradient propagation happens, they have made shorter by splitting it into batches.
No, that's like this, right? This is actually very unique on that perspective. So LSTMs, you have your blog, right? Unrolled. You want to link that up. That will probably make more sense. I think he has one of the best images.
This is actually a long time.
Unrolling.
So, just for a visual, so anyway, we have. Okay, so usually in LSTMs we initialize with a random initial state. It could be tuned, like when you are getting started with learning deep learning, you would go with you initialize with zeros, the first hidden state, and then it starts processing the text, and the hidden state evolves. So the good thing, the right thing to do is tune that as well. Learn the initial state. What is the ideal initial state, right? So in this case, what they have done is they have broken a long sequence into smaller pieces, and as it processes the first piece, they have collected the hidden state at the end, and the second piece is actually here as a, another. It becomes a whole batch, right? As it's another sample, and the final state of the first piece, as the network processes final first piece, the final state will be put as the initial state of the next piece, right? So, that's the idea pretty much. It will shorten the length of the propagation, gradient propagation. I think that's pretty much the idea.
So one more thought that pops up, right, like in my head. Basically, getting in this paper, they are trying to transfer learning that we all do in CV. So one more thing that I think I have a question, right? Like, can we do it like a residual learning mechanism?
They have residual connections in LSTM. So, in LSTM, they have residual connections. There are variants which are self. The TensorFlow API supports that, I guess. No, I'm not sure. But the people have done that. I'm not sure whether they have integrated into TensorFlow.
No, I've seen a package, okay, that's why I was asking. Like, I've seen a package around that. Like a residual connection in LST. I don't know what this is.
No, I'm saying instead of doing LSTM, in this paper they've done the layer-wise unceasing and doing. It's possible to residual mechanism. See
The most cases, right, when you deal with the language model, you don't have number of the same amount of layers that you use CV. CV you just keep stacking, right? We started with like maybe a 2-4 thing. Now we are like 150 skyscraper. That's what we are ending up with. Right? The language model is still very shallow in nature. We don't stack a lot. So from a REST connection, like a residual connection perspective, we have to see how. I have seen something around it, but I'm just not sure how it works. Okay, it's been a while.
Yeah, I guess residual basically like deeper
Connection
it is, the better. That's what.
Go back to your slides.
I'm done.
You're done? Okay. So, implementation for security from this particular paper is actually fairly interesting. One reason why when I say it's fairly interesting is you can't. You're done? Okay. So, implementation for security from this particular paper is actually fairly interesting. One reason why when I say it's fairly interesting is you can't do this with, you can still do it. I'm just saying you can't do it easily with Keras or TensorFlow. This particular case, few things that actually is the dynamic network and PyTorch is the way to go at least for this paper. Now that I'm I'm a proponent of PyTorch. PyTorch still has a very long way to go to evolve into a very stable package. But this particular paper at least is their the learning rate. You look at that they are varying the learning rate across multiple things, right? So that means PyTorch.
It's been implemented in FastAPI.
FastAPI, yes. This paper they have actually, another thing they have actually open sourced the code in FastAPI as part of this thing. So they open source the embedding which they train on GKText or.
There are like a lot of language models that have been coming out of this Thai to where there's even a front, my friend worked on
Telugu.
Yeah, a lot of people are using that. So this was a part of the international fellowship they offered, part 2 version. They had a video on this.
Nice, I saw that Sebastian Buddha's talk. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Okay. The other aspect is you talked about Telugu. I want to come to that. That's something which I've been trying to push. I don't think they have I think they have on LinkedIn. I don't think I made a post on LinkedIn on that. More Facebook. So one other thing about this paper, right? So okay, so there are models that are publicly available, like Wikitext, all those things. You may work for most cases. But whenever you're going after your own domain, your own thing, you have a larger corpus from that particular domain, you got to train from that to get better results. You use the generic one. If it encounters a word that is not there or does not know how to fill that particular thing, you start listening to it, right? Unk is one of the dreaded this thing in NLP at least. You end up with an unk, then you don't know how to handle it. You generally initialize with random values and keep going. So that's one thing. So you have to train it for your specific task. These are actually fairly interesting. FastAI library seems to be really interesting.
They have integrated this paper into their curriculum.
So you can do it for Thai to it. Thai to it, they have implemented it for Thai language.
Oh, very nice.
We've actually cited the neural architecture search paper.
Oh, they did.
That's how I got it.
Who's
I don't see how that's.
That's
Okay, that's.
how they
the architecture search. But they are against that. There was a huge thread was going against AutoML.
Yeah, auto they are.
It's even going on.
Yeah, I saw that. No, it's very interesting.
Why would someone be against that?
We'll cut the lights and then we can talk more about that. I don't want this to be recorded. I have a lot of friends inside.
So, that's very much it.
Okay, so we talked about NLP for some time, paper reading and all those things, right? There's one task that or one activity that we are trying to do as a community. It's not part of SAMA. It's not part of many of the stuff that we are working on here at the lab, right? Many of the stuff that we are working on here at the lab, right? But we want to trigger this for if you look at most of the research that is happening at these, like we talked about, but we want to trigger this for if you look at most of the research that is happening at these, like we talked about Word2Vec and all these things. If you look at it, most of these things are for English. Okay, most of these evolution for language. This is actually only purely for English, right? If you see like language as a mode, like language is culture for a lot of it's a community thing, it's a culture. Whenever you look at language, right, there are a lot of languages that are there in the world. A lot of languages that didn't have a written form or grammar, they have perished for a period of time, right? Written form actually made it survey through that tide and exist for a little bit longer time. But technology started playing the role of grammar and written form right now, right? How many of you actually type in your native language in your phone and send a message? Very few actually do, right? I didn't know that I could actually do it for a long time. Okay, again, I was ignorant. Okay. So the one thing that we are trying to do is, as part of this community effort, is trying to see what are the tools that we could actually develop for other languages that are not English, at least for South Indian languages, right? So that it evolves as part of it. There are a lot of open source activities that have happened, like Tamil virtual industry actually has a lot of work around that in India. But again, I'm focused on Tamil since that's the only language I know. Tamil and English, I don't know any other language. Right? So I'm focused on Tamil a little bit, but if there are people who want to do other language, as we talked about Malayalam the other day, we want to actually take this effort. I did publish a framework around how we could go about doing it. Usually, whenever academia alone is involved, they don't look at practical implications of how this could be ported over, deployed, how people could use it, and all those things. Right? This has to be run more of like a community effort at the same time like a startup do, right? So we are trying to form a non-profit on that idea too, whether form or do it as part of an existing non-profit that someone else has. That's something which we are looking at. One aspect where we're looking for help is there are a lot of activities like data access, collecting data, connections, tagging data, popularizing data. Actually trying to develop a game around it. Or actually help people to tag data that could be helpful enough. Right? If you look at word boundaries, right? For English word boundary is very, very simple. The space is a word boundary. Right? If you look at Tamil or some other language, it's very interesting. Space is not the word boundary. Right? How do you solve even that? Space is not the word boundary for Tamil. Right? So there are things that we have to do to actually even. So a lot of research that's happened so far is always focused on syntactic aspect of the language, right? And developing more fun like Amrita, SSN, there are a lot of colleges which have done some really good work around that area. But semantic aspect is really missing. Either due to lack of access to data or this thing, like you said, like this has been open source for Telugu, right? that's interesting enough for itself, right? That will trigger other things to begin with. So those are the things that we are starting. If you guys are interested, right, we'll there's a GitHub organization that we have created. If you guys are interested, we'll add you to that. Okay? Whoever wants to contribute. Then we are trying to open up a website around that idea to publish what are the activities, what we have to do, where we are, status from that. It's more of a passionate stuff. That is not anything related to the work that we are doing here. But very rarely you get an opportunity to impact something that big. From an opportunity perspective, from an impact perspective, this is activity. So yeah, that's what we are starting with. If you guys follow my Facebook, you just I don't know how many follow Facebook. So there's a lot of conversation that went on that particular topic. A lot of big guys who contributed a lot to open source for Tamil. I actually just want to back. Cut the live stream.
Where is it going?